All right, Off-Grid Stores here, back with our first video in probably about a year. It's been a very busy year getting everything up and running. Sales have been crazy, everything's been crazy, and I haven't had enough time to make videos for you guys. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about the difference between the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max and the EcoFlow Delta Max. We get a lot of questions about this and pretty much which one is better, which one should you buy, and we're gonna explain it all in this video. So before we get into it, be sure to smash the like button. Let's get this video out to as many people as possible, and let's break this down. So first up, the Delta 2 Max is the newest unit put out by EcoFlow. I believe it came out in about May of this year, so maybe about 6 months ago. It's the newest one currently at the time of recording this, but I know that they are coming out with other units as they constantly do. So as you can see here, firstly, one of the biggest differences is gonna be the price. We're at almost $1,600. And this is about $1,200. We always have coupons marking it down from there. You cannot use the 5% off and this coupon at the same time, so always obviously use the 10% off. It's going to be better for you. These coupons change from time to time. That's just what it is at the time of recording this video. So one of the biggest things that people are gonna see is the price, and they're probably gonna say, oh, well, I'm just gonna go with this smaller or with the cheaper unit, and that might not be the best idea for you. And it really does depend on what your actual use case is for these batteries. I mean, there's gonna be two very big differences, and that's going to be the life cycle capacity, because these are different battery chemistries, and the solar input. But mostly it's going to be the life cycle capacity of these two units. Like I said, the Delta 2 Max is the newer unit. It is lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are all the rage nowadays. They're going in everything, where the Delta Max is about 2 years old, I believe. It might be a little bit older than that, and it's just the NMC. It is not a lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry, and therefore it's going to have a lot less cycles that it can go through before it's pretty much a null and void battery. Don't let that deter you though, because if you're like me, I myself have a Delta Max, and I do not use it all that often. When we're going up to our cabin in Vermont, I use it, I bring it. When sometimes I'm cleaning things in my car or doing things that are in my car and I don't want to plug something in, and you know, maybe a vacuum or a power tool of some sort, I'll use the Delta Max. But again, I'm not using it every single day like the Delta 2 Max is definitely made for. So if we scroll down through everything here, you're going to get to the specifications section. You're going to notice that they pretty much are very similar. Let's go by size first off. The weight of the Delta Max is 48 pounds and the Delta 2 Max is 50 pounds. So again, another thing people always ask me is like, how do you know the difference, things like that. The Delta Max, you just have to think of it as the original unit, and the Delta 2 Max is the second version of the Delta Max. It's the same thing as the Delta and the Delta 2. It's basically going to be that. So just think of the Delta 2 Max as the newer version. So if we look at the capacity of the Delta 2 Max, it's 48 or 2,048 watt hours. For the Delta original Max, it's 2,016. Pretty much the same. We got the output here. The inverter output is 2,400 watts. We got 2,400 watts. Pretty similar. Surge is a little bit less on the Delta 2 Max. Again, it's really not that big a difference. All the outputs of the ports are pretty similar. 18 watt max. I mean, yes, there's some differences here. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can go through all of them on your own, but you know, it's really not that big of a difference. Everything's pretty similar. The size, 19.6, 9.5, and 12, 19.6, literally the same size unit. So again, what's the main difference is going to be the NCM battery chemistry for the Delta Max, and the Delta 2 Max is going to be lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. This is where the huge difference comes in. So we get 3,000 cycles to 80% capacity with lithium iron phosphate. This is the Delta 2 Max. It's more expensive. You're getting a lot more cycles out of it. 3,000, and the Delta Max gets 800. And this is the Delta Max 2,000. There's also the Delta Max 1,600. We're not even going to talk about that. So if you get 3,000 divided by 800, you get almost 4 times the amount of cycles out of the Delta 2 Max for $400 more of its price. So, you know, that is a big difference, but a lot of people do come to me and they're working on a budget. If you're working on a budget and you're not using this unit all the time, maybe just go for the Delta Max, because of the fact that they both have decent warranties. The Delta Max itself, I believe, it's a 3-year warranty. 24 plus 12, and then the Delta 2 Max is going to be a 5-year warranty. So there is a longer warranty on the Delta 2 Max. But again, if you're not using this every single day, like I don't at all use mine every single day, what is the point in having the extra, you know, battery capacity. Sure, it does sound great, but if you're on a budget, then why not go for the Delta Max? So that's pretty much going to be the biggest difference here. So there's also going to be the solar charging input. So the Delta 2 Max has 2 inputs instead of 1. It's going to be 500 watts each for a total of 1,000, but you need to make sure you do not go over the 60 volts on either of the inputs, or else you will cause problems in your unit, possibly fry the solar charge controller. And the solar charging input on the Delta Max is only 800 watts, so it's less cycles and less watts. It's only 1 input though, which to me is better. The 2 input thing, I'm not really a big fan of, but it's up to whatever you'd like. It's definitely going to be easier to get more solar into the Delta 2 Max. It's just gonna be a little bit more complicated because you have more wires going on here. So let's just talk about the whole 80% capacity thing. And this is another thing that a lot of people ask me about, and we'll talk about this pretty in depth, or as in depth as possible. So it says 3,000 cycles to 80% capacity, 800 cycles to 80% capacity. A lot of people ask me, oh, well, I still, 80% capacity. So say it's 800 cycles, divide that by 0.2 because you've only used 20% capacity. People are like, oh, well, you'll get 4,000 more, you'll get 4,000 total cycles, 800 cycles, and you've only used 20% of its capacity. That's not really how these batteries work at all. When you get to 80% capacity on a lithium iron phosphate or any form of lithium battery, or really battery in general, it's pretty much at the end of its life. So it does sound maybe a little manipulative. It's just the way that the market or the industry labels it. Once it's at 80% capacity, it's pretty much done for. It's not completely done. There is still some use out of it, but it's more or less on its way out. So let's look at this. I don't even know what battery they're talking about here. But as you can see, I believe they say it's a lithium iron phosphate. As you can see, this is the capacity. So 80% capacity is right here. Starts at 100 of whatever this battery is. And this is the amount of cycles. As you can see, it hits 80% at about, let's just say around 450, a little bit more than 450. That's when it hits 80% capacity. And it's down at 65% capacity at about 500 cycles. So it goes along well for a while and keeps its capacity for a long time until once it hits about 80%. I mean, for this battery, even at around like 87, but let's just use 80. It's a very steep drop off in the amount of cycles to capacity left. So, within, let's just say 50 more cycles, it dropped off, an extra 15%. So it's not going to make it very many more cycles after this. It's pretty much done. Once the battery voltage of an individual cell inside of your battery bank starts going out of whack, the whole thing is going to start going out of whack. So that's why we use 80% capacity, because at 80% capacity, it's pretty much down and out. So here's another one. This one shows obviously a lot more hope. I believe this is lithium iron phosphate batteries, just based off the cycles. I don't even know what this really came from. I just found the image. I had a whole bunch of these articles. I just don't know. Scientific papers, I just don't know where they went. We got 80% here. Let's just say for ease, it's at 2,000 cycles, even though it's really not. It's down at 60% capacity at like 3,250. So, you can see the steep drop off on these curves. And this is based on the depth of discharge, which a lot of people are probably going to do 80 or 100%. So these two charts right here, I mean, it does start to drop off a good amount once you get to 80%. So what should you choose? Again, if you're going to be using this unit every single day, I would choose obviously the Delta 2 Max. It has 3,000 cycles. If you use that every single day, you basically got 10 years more or less of cycles that you can use this for, and you're still decent. And the Delta Max without the lithium iron phosphate batteries, although it's cheaper, again, you're only going to have, what is that, like 2 years, a little bit over 2 years to 80% capacity. But again, I don't really use mine maybe every month or so, every couple months. So again, it's really more of what is the purpose of what you're using this for. Think about it long and hard. Are you on a budget? Are you not on a budget? If you're not on a budget, clearly go for the newest unit that EcoFlow has put out, and the one that has more capacity, more solar input, everything like that. If you are on a budget, which a lot of people coming to me are, definitely go for the cheaper one if you're not going to be using it every day, and, go that way. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully it cleared a lot of things up for people that are looking for the difference between the two. If you have any questions, please be sure to put them down below. Smash the like button if this was helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.